have this strange thing that happens, and it's happened 5 times in the last few months, and it's my phone. I will butt dial my friend Don, and I've done it a number of different times, and then he'll call me, because he'll see the call, and I'll say to him, and I want to lie and say like, yeah, I tried to call you, Don, but I really hadn't. But then I'll just tell him I butt dialed them, and then we'll talk and everything. But then I think, gosh, what is going on? Like, okay, so maybe I need to talk to Don and have a longer conversation. So I actually talked to him last night for a while, and he said something that was interesting. He's a retired. He's 80. He's going to be 80 in a few months. Actually, I think January. But he was saying, you have a great job, Adam. Like you really get to impact people. And he's a retired school administrator. And I hear that from people sometimes that say, like, with envy, like what you get to do is really change people's lives. And I think of that, and I think, well, Don, you got to change people's lives too, and he's been retired for a number of years, I think 15 plus years, a long time. And it reminded me of how I hear from clients frequently that, I'm not happy with my job. I'm not happy with my career, or I've spent all this energy, and for what? Today we're going to talk about balance. There's a lot at stake with this, about how to live with a sense of balance, and I think it's misunderstood. It gets a bad rap. I am by no means advocating perfection with balance, but there are some things, some actions we can take that can make a big difference when it comes to our careers, our lives, so that we at the age of 80, and I'm not saying Don doesn't feel good about his life, but we feel like, hey, we had a huge impact. We can be more happy with our lives and how we're living our lives. So welcome to the Decide Your Legacy podcast. I told you about the topic. I'm Adam Gragg. I founded Decide Your Legacy in 2012, and our purpose is to help people live with courage, to make the decisions that are going to change their life and impact the lives of others. And it's all about other people having a big impact, and to do the stuff, to take action. This podcast is practical. What we're going to discuss today are tools that can help you right away if you apply them. This is stuff that comes out of 25 plus years as being a family therapist. And I have 2 special guests here today, Kelsey Torkelson and Sherman, and they're going to chime in. They're both legacy coaches at Decide Your Legacy. They have a huge impact, and they're going to share from their perspective on this topic as well. So I have a big struggle here, and I want Kelsey and Sherman to jump in and share, and they're going to kind of jump in. We're all going to talk about the topic together. So jump on in. And I mean, my struggle with balance is I just get all consumed. So I kind of do subscribe to this, like, work harder, you're going to have the results you want. Just keep working. So I can go and push. And I can do it I can push way too long, like hours and hours sometimes. And then in my mind, I'll justify it and say, well, that's what other people do who really achieve, but it's not healthy. It's not good.
No, it's the same thing in my own life. There's a couple of hobbies that I've gotten into and just turned my whole life in on, let's say, like bow hunting was one of them. It just consumed me. Reading everything about it, doing everything, and then came to realize I wasn't reading anything. I wasn't exercising anymore. And I was like, darn, this is way out of whack. There's something that's got to change here somewhere along the line.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you know whether you're out of balance, because you're getting all consumed. It can be a good thing, but you're all consumed by it. And I have that all or nothing mentality for sure. And that's what you find is, too, that people that struggle with lack of balance, like, they can get just sucked in, you know, like, yeah, I'm all in. Don't even talk to me for a week, or whatever it is, so it's a big deal. So Kelsey, how about you? What's the struggle here?
Yes, I struggle with the balance, and I have been in a funk lately, and I didn't realize what it was, and I did the little tree thing, and I saw that I was not in balance, and I was avoiding some of the areas, and I needed to focus more on those.
Struggle, yeah. And that's we have this Decide Your Legacy tree. It represents 7 different life areas: spiritual, friends, family, health, intellectual, and career, money, social and fun. And if you neglect any of those areas, that can be a problem long term. Not saying short term. I mean, it can be okay.
Yeah, I was lacking the social and fun and the intellectual, those 2 things.
Isn't that a big one? That's something.
Both of those.
So you're reading more now. Did it remind you to do some things differently in your life? Yeah.
Yes. Now I'm reading more, putting my phone down, listening to my own advice.
Okay. Which Kelsey does say to me sometimes, like, what advice would you give to a client here? And then I realize I'm not actually taking it. And that's really encouraging to me to think that I already have the tools.
Yes.
I'm just not applying them. I'm not having to search for that next thing. It's actually already there. I just don't want to apply it.
Right.
So, and you know, the cool thing, something about balance too, is when we get off balance, we are engaging in something that's leading to an escape. That's really an indication for me. So that lack of balance really can point me back to, what am I not dealing with here?
Something hard.
Something hard and tricky, but big deal. So we got 3 actions you can take to actually adjust your life to add more balance. And the first of those actions is to find some level of purpose in your life. So I hear this envy of my career, and other people do as well. You can look at certain things. I think if somebody is in a job like they're a doctor, they're a therapist, they're a pastor, they're a helper, okay, we can look and say, well, what they're saying is you're having direct impact on people's lives. So I had a pilot friend tell me recently that he felt like he didn't have nearly as much impact as other careers. And I'm thinking, and he doesn't dislike his career. I mean, it wasn't somebody that didn't like being a pilot, but he didn't realize that, well, everyone's lives in his hands when he's flying. Well, I mean, there's a lot of purpose to that from me, an outsider, but he was saying, I don't get enough direct contact with people. So if you're going to find a way to add, you can find ways to add purpose to your life. So in this situation, it's how can you have more contact in a way where you're feeling like you're having an impact? And with some tweaks that can be made. You don't have to step out of your job and say, I'm not going to work there, but you're adjusting it in your approach to add purpose to it. I think great activity that I love people to go through is to think about their lives and to step back from their lives and go back to when they were a little kid and to say, what are those moments where I felt on purpose? I was living, I had energy. I felt inspired. I didn't have to begrudgingly go to work, or didn't have to just dread certain aspects of my life, but I was excited about it. And how can I tweak my life now currently? Because I would suggest that you don't need to make any radical changes to have this. How can I make some adjustments in my perspective and how I'm viewing it that can add purpose to my life? And then it can change. It can be that you were a hard-charging boss driving CEO guy, and then you shift to saying, I'm a hard-charging driving CEO boss who's going to impact people in all my interactions.
That makes the difference, is in how you're impacting other people. I think about myself, we're going from 2,000 people every weekend or whatnot to just a very small circle of people around me now. And I thought about that. It was like, gosh, am I really going to impact anybody anymore in a big way? And the thing is, the number doesn't count. What counts is the people I do impact. And so I have a next door neighbor who works her tail off. And I said, she's going to be my special purpose in this neighborhood. And so I mow her grass. I bring her over some hams that I get from time to time.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And it's like when I drive by, she waves at me every time with a big smile because I'm helping her. I'm making a big impact on her life.
And it changes everything.
Yeah.
It's such a big deal. So even if you're doing a podcast and you're realizing that I can help somebody here, maybe I can help somebody with what we share.
Yeah.
And that changes the way that I would approach doing this. It's actually, I can feel the energy when I think of helping somebody else versus just helping myself or impressing myself. And impressing other people.
Yes.
That's a huge deal.
When we help other people, it helps us in return, I feel that way.
Yeah.
When I'm helping other people, it gets me outside of myself and it makes me focus on other problems besides my own problems.
Yeah. It's huge. And it's right there in our midst. It's amazing how we can go and think we got to find something else that's outside of us or that's something external and then I'm going to be okay. So, but in our midst, we have opportunities to impact people all the time.
Right.
Yes.
Like that pilot has people all the time, but he was not thinking and focusing on it the way he could and wanted to. And after discussion, hopefully that will be the case, but I don't know. I mean, so you can find it right there. You've probably heard of that story, Acres of Diamonds, where this was a speech that was given. You can look it up and kind of read through this presentation. It's on a topic called Acres of Diamonds. And I forget the author of this presentation, but it was really famous and you can read it about it and everything. And so the guy, I don't know the story exactly. I've never really read it or listened to it, but I've heard stories on it. But basically it's like the guy leaves his hometown and goes to a foreign country and he's looking for diamonds because he was told that he would find this in this other area. And then it turns out that he went and searched and looked everywhere for this, and then finds out later that he was actually living on a diamond mine. Like it was right there. So, but he searched for it everywhere else, but then he was right there. He didn't look. We're not looking for the opportunities, and you can find that, and that's going to give you purpose. And how does this relate to balance, though? That's the question. I mean, if you have purpose in your life, you tell me, how does that add balance to your life? It's kind of confusing.
If you have purpose in your life, it takes you away from all of your problems and your goals, and it helps you see life as a whole and how not everything revolves around us and our problems. And it helps you to see that in order to have a full life, you need to hit all these areas of your life. And one of those is serving and helping others. So
it pulls you out of being consumed by one part of your life because you have purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads you into being more balanced so that you can better execute on that purpose.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. I'd say that's exactly right. It's not about I have one purpose. It's a purpose that guides all the different points of the Decide Your Legacy tree.
All right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the second point here. So second big idea, kind of big wig kind of thing, but it's just surrender. It's like, well, how do we surrender? I mean, like surrender is kind of confusing. I don't know. You've been in ministry for so long, Sherman. What does it mean to surrender in a spiritual sense?
In a spiritual sense, it would be letting your own control and rigidity in a certain situation go by the wayside and surrender to God's will, which is love, and living in that kind of life. It's really about fighting that rigidity and control that people have. So you just surrender to God and say, let it be, and it will be.
And so how does it relate to life balance then? I mean, I'll chime in with that too, because I think I'm getting off track here a little bit, but what I find with people that are out of balance is they have this sense of, they view the world in black and white terms. It's rigid. It's rigid. So the cardinal trait of all mental illness, this is a famous quote, and I don't really know who said it, but I know it's been quoted, probably referenced to a number of different people in the psychology field, but is that, the cardinal trait of all mental illness is rigidity. I definitely see truth to that. Like we get so stuck in one way and there's no flexibility, and our expectations are being blown away all the time because we're rigid, and we're not seeing that we can actually adjust and grow. And we get strength when we grow and we're flexible. It doesn't mean we don't have structure, because we need that too. But they view the world in black and white, perfectionistic, all or nothing, success or failure, polarizing fashion. And there's more on this we're going to talk about. And then this other aspect that I see that really goes counter to surrender, because surrender is, the rigidity leads to control. So I'm going to focus my energy on what I can, the things that are within, that I can't control. I'm putting a lot of energy into things I can't really do anything about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Causes a huge problem.
Yeah, because that's probably the number one problem in relationships today and throughout our world really today, but trying to control things that you can't control.
Right.
And that's one of the things I spent basically a lot of my ministry on, is trying to remind people, guess what? You can't control the other person. There's only one person you can control is yourself. And in some respects, that goes kind of back to that surrender and anti-rigidity is like, gosh, we'll always be frustrated if we're not willing to kind of let things flow.
Right.
And so an illustration of this, and I do this with clients a lot, is just grab something that you're holding right now. Like I'll have them grab in my office a dry erase marker, and I'll say, just stick your hand out with the dry erase marker and now let it go. All right. And so this, and I'll say it represents something that they're trying to control. So maybe they're fixating on one of their kids, or they're fixating on their job, or they're fixating on their health and a problem with their health or something. Okay. And so let it go. And then, okay, so you just let go and you surrendered that worry. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now just leave it there, just leave it there. And they look at it, and I can always generally see that they want to pick it up, because people aren't necessarily comfortable just having a pen just lying there on the ground. There's something that small, but you don't have to pick it up. You really don't have to pick up that worry. And we don't even think that we can. We don't even think that we can stop it. Mm-hmm. And you really can't stop it in the sense that you think that you can stop it. You can replace it. You can try to stop it, but it's going to be It's like saying you're going to force yourself not to think something. You can definitely replace it, though. You can replace it by getting your energy focused onto something else. That's a form of surrender. It's like if we're going to fixate on something and we decide to say, well, I'm still going to go to the gym here. I'm still going to read a book even though I don't want to. And you're doing it. That's a form of surrender because you're equating control to doing that activity. The more I do it, I'm going to find more control in my life, but I'm not going to actually do it because I know it's not the next best right thing.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's going back to what you say. It's a well-balanced life throughout the whole of your life, the whole tree, not just one thing. And your relationships especially.
No, and so we have this thing too. We talk about 7 up on a scale 1 to 10. It's okay to be a 7. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be a 7. It's fine to be a 7. In fact, we want to strive to be a 7. We want to strive to not have to be perfect is what we're saying here.
I try that, and then I try to tell myself, this doesn't pertain to me. I have to be perfect. But then I go back to, nope. It pertains to me too, because I struggle with the perfectionistic.
Or it doesn't pertain to this situation.
Right.
This situation requires perfection.
Yeah, this is special.
Oh boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's pretty consuming.
Yeah.
But so activity, practical, something you can do. I encourage you to try this. Very simple, very powerful, is you write down what you're worried about. Mm-hmm. You identify what it is. You're very specific on it. I'm afraid this thing's going to happen. I'm afraid the meeting's not going to go well. My health is going to fall apart. My parents are going to die. We're going to lose our home in a tornado. I don't care what it is. You think about it. People do think that and worry about that kind of stuff in Kansas. They do. And I guess they have reason. It's possible. It's not likely, but it is possible. Then you go ahead and draw a line down the middle and you write down can influence and then can't influence. So on one side of that sheet of paper, you're writing everything related to that worry that you really have no control over. And then be specific. Specificity helps decrease anxiety,
right?
Because you're looking at really clarity right there. It's not ambiguous anymore. So if you were afraid your house is going to be blown away by a tornado, you write down maybe some statistics on, these are the statistics. That's a fact. I can't control that. Statistics are X, Y, and Z. You write down the fact that it's a fact that some people have had their homes destroyed by tornadoes. It's a fact that tornadoes do exist in Kansas where we're doing this podcast. It's a fact that tornadoes are dangerous. So you just write that down. Look at it. You may think that's going to make you more afraid, but it's actually not. It's actually not because it's going to start giving you perspective. Then you write down on the other side what you can influence related to this worry. And the things you can influence are stuff you can do to have some level of impact on the situation. You can't change the weather. Nobody can change the weather. But what can you do? Well, you can make sure you have a plan if the weather got really bad. Like you can listen to the tornado sirens. You can go in your basement. You can talk to your kids about what to do if there's bad weather. You can go to Florida in the middle of the tornado season. You can do these things. So that's all stuff, and that'll give you a sense. I wouldn't recommend that one because it doesn't really change
just avoiding.
Anything. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. There's a lot behind that. Because maybe you're just driving into a hurricane.
I was going to say,
what I'm saying?
Right.
Something worse.
Yeah. I mean, there's no, and in fact, don't look at those statistics and you'd be like, well, you're more likely to be in a hurricane than it is. That's the funny part about it because it's like you go and avoid problems and you're just adding different problems. That's why it's never good to run because you're just adding more and you're actually not adding evidence that you can handle a problem. You're taking away evidence that you can handle a problem. Whole nother podcast right there. But that's a level of control that we're letting and choosing to let go of. So what helps you to let go of control, Kelsey and Sherman? To surrender.
To realize I don't have any control really as much as I like to think about it. And I focus on what I can control. And a lot of that has to do with my tiny rituals throughout the day that I know that I can lean back on. And if at least I'm doing these certain things, then I feel like my life is going to be okay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say actually that in my previous profession and such, rigidity was very helpful in getting things accomplished. But at the same time, everything being black and white, you come to realize, especially as you get a little bit older, that there are shades of gray, as the famous song says. And so being able to talk to myself and say, you know what? It's not all black and white. Even though everybody out there in the world and news and stuff want to say everything's black and white, I'm like, no, there's shades of gray in my own life, and I'm sure there's shades of grays in everybody's life. And so that helps me avoid that rigidity that comes about just naturally with a lot of people.
And then whenever I am rigid, I realize that I'm not happy. Like whenever you're trying to control everything, by controlling the things around you, I'm just miserable.
Yeah, that's a big deal. You can identify it better in the moment that I'm causing my own misery here.
Yeah.
Why can't people always identify they're making themselves miserable? Because that's such a powerful thing if you can really identify it. It's like...
Yeah, self-reflection.
Yeah, self-reflection would avail us much. I mean, so, yeah, it's, you mentioned something about aging and everything. So I have another buddy outside of Dawn. Dawn's almost 80, but I have another friend, Joe, who is 83 or 84. And yesterday, the last time we met, not yesterday, but it was last Wednesday, he was telling me that he's really interested in coloring mandalas. You know what mandalas are?
I like doing that too.
So, and I look at that and I say, man, Joe, you've gotten a lot more flexible over the years, because Joe, I would say, is more of a hard charger guy. I mean, he's kind of like an Uberman masculine guy in a way, like in some ways. In some ways he's not, and never has been in my sense, but in some ways he is. And so I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And he's not making fun of his wife anymore for liking it, because that's where he got exposed to that. And I thought he had a sense of excitement with it, and thinking that's really healthy. Because there's all kinds of benefits to doing that. You're channeling energy and you're coloring, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's kind of cool with that, like artistic stuff.
It lowers your screen time because you're not looking at your screen too.
While you're doing it. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, for sure. Unless you're doing it on your iPad.
Well, then.
You can probably do that, and I wouldn't knock that, because maybe that would be an exclusionary screen activity.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd still get in trouble with Kelsey.
Yes.
So if you found this podcast helpful, check out Shatterproof Yourself Light. Now, this is a great course that we put together that walks you through 7 steps to more self-confidence, to a giant leap in your life, to taking and making changes. And it's a free course that you takes you about 25 minutes to go through it. And there's a 4-page worksheet that you download and you check out and fill out. And it gives you 7 practical actions that you can take today to make a big change in your life. So you want to check that out. Hit the link. You can always access it off our website. It's called Shatterproof Yourself Light. Check that out. So the third big one here, we talked about surrender. We talked about finding purpose. How do those relate to life balance? Well, I mean, when you surrender, you're actually being able to surrender to go into different areas of your life that you're neglecting. When you're finding purpose, you have a motivation to stay balanced, because it's a big deal. It's like experiences. We're going to get more experiences that are going to change people's lives. And we're making the most of the job we have because we're finding a purpose in it. And you can do that. So the third action you can take is to set goals, to find focus, to add structure. And when you find focus and add structure, then you're going to be willing to make the hard shifts. It's like you're able to say no to one area and yes to another area, because that doesn't align with your values and your vision and the goals that you've set. And you're able to say no and keep your no. You're able to say yes and keep your yes, because it's big picture. It's big. And so that purpose is going to drive you there. And so this may seem a little bit off when it comes to your focus, when it comes to life balance, but I would suggest that it's going to actually put you in a position where you have better focus when you're setting the right goals. And I'm saying you could set the wrong goal. You could say, my goal is to be a scratch golfer in the next year, and every waking hour that I'm not working, I'm going to play golf. I would not suggest that unless you're going to be on the PGA Tour. I would not suggest, and you're single and you're not, don't have kids you're neglecting. That would be a very bad goal. But the right goals, which I would suggest, you're going to set the right goals from a place of energy and excitement and purpose, and they're going to resonate with other people. Your monkeys, I call them, who really love you and care about you, they're going to say, that's a great goal. I mean, really support that goal. Or your monkeys are going to say, dude, don't do that, because that's really off balance.
Right.
Right?
I'm ever mindful. So I got into roses a while back and started planting them. Well, I noticed that some of my roses did absolutely nothing. And the whole reason, I found out a little later on, is that they were climbing roses, and they had no trellis, no structure to go up. So they never really flowered. They never did anything. And I'm ever mindful of that in this whole idea about setting goals and finding structure and a focus. Because what that does, it does help you bloom. It helps you actually grow and reach new goals. But if you don't have, or reach new heights really, but if you don't have those goals, if you don't have the structure, then a lot of times you're just going to flounder from thing to thing to thing.
You can't just plant the roses and expect them to just do all the work. You have to do some work.
Right.
Well, what is that all about? It doesn't seem fair that you got to actually have the right structure for the rose. Just plant the stinking seeds.
Well, because it goes back to another thing I always say is there's a difference between the wilderness and a garden is the work you put into it. And so that's what makes the difference between our lives. The work you put into it, the goals you set, the focus, that helps it change from the wilderness with cockaburs and all those other things to a beautiful place that everybody enjoys or feeds the world.
Yeah.
When you see people living a life that you admire because they have rich friendships, they have things that they are passionate about, it doesn't happen accidental. That stuff happens with intentionality because they have to put it in a calendar and they plan it. Just like I know every Wednesday where I'm going to be Wednesday night. It's intentional, and that's like nothing gets in the way unless I happen to be out of town or sick. And so you have to have a structure because the structure helps you to focus on a life that matters.
So how, practically speaking, adding structure is not my strength. Well, it's not my strength, but practically speaking, it is essential to having balance. Mm-hmm. You will not do it unless you plan it, unless you put it in there. It'll be emotional, and you'll be pulled into whatever is the urgent, and it becomes a tyrannical driver of your life, the tyranny of the urgent. And so just start by identifying when you're going to get up, when you're going to go to bed. And then I would say, like, what are you going to do with those first morning hours? Are you going to take your kids to school? Are you going to hang out with them? Are you going to make breakfast? Are you going to go have coffee with your friends? Are there certain things, tasks, and everything that you want to get done, and you commit? And then when will you end your work day? When are you going to work in physical activity, a walk? And every 15 minutes counts, but you don't have to plan it that rigidly. I would suggest time blocking, which means you have an hour for something, and maybe you're only spending less than that, but you have this in your schedule. Then you get anticipate it, you get excited, and it's putting a no in there. It's like it's almost like if you have a job and you're working your job, and you have set hours, which I'm a fan of actually for myself, then I know that these certain activities I can't do. It doesn't matter how I feel. It just means that I've made a commitment that people are counting on me, that I can go in, and that's not how everybody functions all the time. But if I put in a workout, if I put a bedtime in there, then I'm taking it seriously. And I need a lot of help there. I mean, I do. It's because I still, even with that, I still get drug into, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. I'd rather do this. I'd rather do that. Or I'd say that, okay, this is more important, and it's something else that's not really as important.
People say that a lot to me about because I like to work out, and they're like, I don't know how you do that. I just never feel like it. You know how many times I feel like working out?
Zero.
None. But you know how I feel afterwards? Amazing.
You feel good. Yeah.
So that's why we take the stairs.
That's been such a big deal for me in my life. And I do consistently work out, but I just haven't, I neglect to, I don't always remember how much of an impact that physical aspect of my life has on my mental health, and has on the decisions that I make, and has on the processing that I do. And I would say though, I can get into a place where I get more excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments, but for the most part, it's not like I'm like, oh, yay.
Oh, yay, yeah.
Gonna go work out.
But, oh, man, it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
So, very good. So you add structure and focus to your life. And so you have big goals, and you focus on those big goals. I'd suggest you put some energy into setting those for 2026. What are you going to do? What are you going to accomplish? How are you going to get there? And you use your filters to get there. So what is it for you, Sherman, that helps you when it comes to schedule and structure your day? What would you give as advice?
I'd just go back. I've been having a structured life pretty much for most of my time, is because I saw how people wasted their time, and I just didn't want to waste my time, especially when I think back to, and so I put a schedule into effect even in high school and college. I never did anything. I hardly worked at all in high school, didn't pay attention. And then I thought, gosh, if I want to go somewhere in life, I'm going to have to do some study and whatnot. And so I got a schedule together, and I've really pretty much kept that my whole life. So in one way or another, I've been just very scheduled. And so that's, and I think it's helpful. That's when, and then there's some days when I know Saturdays are my day when I have nothing scheduled. I have a few things I want to get crossed off my list, but when those get done, if it's at 12 noon or 7 p.m., I don't really care.
Okay. Well, it seems you've mentioned a number of times that you want to exercise more.
Yes.
So if you had it planned in your schedule, what is the likelihood that you wouldn't do it?
It would be better. It would be better.
You could still talk yourself out of it, though.
Oh, probably.
Okay.
I'm a really good talker.
Okay. So, well, that's interesting.
But I got to work on it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to work on it. I'll get there.
You'll get there. Okay. Well, so we got 3 points there, and I will say that have you guys experienced and seen, and maybe it's like, what are some of the negative impacts that a lack of balance actually has?
Well, I think you would find that you probably have bad relationships. There'll be something off in your whole balance of your life, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, relational. And so it becomes, I think, obvious to those who can just watch you for a while, to friends, to spouses, to coworkers, and they can see it.
Yeah.
I think the relationships is where you can see the lack of balance the most, because I feel like that is what we put on the back burner because we feel like they're not important because they're not productive. But really, there's so much richness.
That is the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to lay on your bed and you're not going to think, oh, I wish I would have worked more. You're going to be like, oh, I wish I would have hung out with my friends more. I wish I would have done.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Big deal.
Yep.
So, and I mean, you get this a lot at stake here, relationships, marriages, friendships, big stuff, health, all kinds of stuff. So in summary, just kind of running through this again. So 3 big ideas, big actions to take for you to live with more balance. So find purpose, cultivate purpose in your job and your family and your life. Find ways to surrender and let go, which is going to be a risk. It's going to be scary. And then set goals, get a focus, set a schedule. So there you have it. If you found this podcast helpful, again, check out Shatterproof Yourself Light, and you'll make my day if you subscribe, leave a rating and review, Apple Podcast or Spotify somewhere. Spread it and tell a friend. Tell somebody you're really not balanced and you need to listen to this podcast. I mean, don't do that. I'm just kidding. But to decide means you're eliminating other options. Your legacy is the impact your life has on other people. There's no positive change until you take an action you decide to change. So think of something today in this podcast episode that you're going to apply. And by the end of the day today, I'd encourage you to teach it to somebody and take action. Or take action and don't teach it to somebody, but do something with it. Take action. Do something with it. So I want to close the way I always do. Live the life today that you want to be remembered for 10 years after you're gone. You decide your legacy, nobody else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.